we went from barely having 600 donors the prior year to having 2,813 donors by the end of that day of giving.
Welcome to the EverTrue Innovators podcast, where we meet the innovative voices behind the ideas moving fundraising forward.
Hello, and welcome to the Innovators podcast. I'm Madeline Turner, and I'm joined by my co-hostests with the mostest, Hannah Davis and Keith Manieri. Hannah, Keith, when a giving day isn't hitting goals, what do you do?
Sometimes you just got to start over.
Exactly. Bloomsburg rebuilt their giving day strategy using Signal and ThankView, resulting in over 300,000 raised and 1,000 plus donors.
Let's hear from Bloomsburg University, winners of the Giving Day Reinvention Award.
Congratulations on being 2026 Innovators. And thanks for taking the time to sit down with us.
So I'll introduce myself. I am Laura Baker. I am the Associate Director of the Annual Fund at the Bloomsburg University Foundation. So primarily on top of running our all-in day of giving, I also run our call center. We do a semester round phone-a-thon call center where all of our students that we have working in the call center, it's usually anywhere between 15 and 20 students. They call our alumni and friends and family of the university and ask for their support. And then I also run our crowdfunding and pretty much anything that falls under the annual giving for the foundation. And then I brought my boss, Tom Schaefer, with me, so I will let him introduce himself.
Hello, I'm Tom Schaefer. I'm the Senior Director of Marketing and Communications here at the BU Foundation. I oversee Annual Fund and all of our other marketing and communication initiatives throughout the year. So it's been a pleasure to watch our annual fund grow, especially our all-in day of giving. Since Laura has joined the team, and looking forward to sharing how we've achieved some of that success.
Well, let's start there. I'd love to hear from both of you in your own words a little bit more about the evolution of your day of giving and what problem were you trying to solve with the original campaign structure? What wasn't working in that model? And specifically, what changed when you rebuilt the campaign around campus-wide participation and competition?
Yeah, so Tom, why don't you start? I joined a little over 2 years ago, so our Day of Giving started 5 years ago. So Tom, why don't you start and talk about the years leading up to me when I was not here, and then we can tag team the rest of it.
Sure. So we began doing the all-in Day of Giving 5 years ago, 2021, right after COVID, when really we started noticing that a lot of other schools were doing it, and it was becoming pretty much almost a necessity to be able to have this as part of your annual giving plan. And we just were like, okay, other schools are doing it, so we'll do it too. And we kind of, I guess, just thought that, we'll just do it and it'll work, and that's how this will go. And we had noticed initially that we just didn't have a lot of campus buy-in, and we didn't build up the idea of starting or launching a day of giving as much as we needed to. And also we struggled in the first few years with getting the athletics side of things, our programs and our coaches and student athletes, to get excited about All In and participate with All In. And that proved to be, not as successful as we would like to see it. Like, we saw what our counterparts were doing within our system, the PASHI system, and then we started to reach out to them and say, hey, how are you achieving these levels of numbers? How are you reaching these goals that you're or reaching these numbers of donations and dollar amounts that are coming in? And we started to see that, we needed to create a groundswell of buy-in on campus. And then even still, we we didn't have as much as we wanted to because we didn't have as much time to focus on how do we work this with academics and how do we work this with our athletic teams and programs to make this a success across the board. So we just continued to chip away at that and see, what are we missing, what opportunities are out there that we're not taking advantage of, all that, and we grew that and realized that we needed to have somebody come in and really be primarily focused on this and be the leader of the strategy for All In.
But when I came in, which was I started in March of 2024, and so I was here for about a month exactly when our All-In Day of Giving happened in 2024. So I had no clue. I was not a part of any of it. I kind of just saw the after effects of it. I had come from a local theater in our area. I was their development director, and they took place. There's like a community-based Day of Giving that our 5 sort of surrounding counties are a part of, that is run by one organization. And it does very well. And when I worked for the theater, they participated in that. And I kind of helped kick that off and for that to become a huge success for that theater. So when I moved over, I sort of took the idea of that, but simplified it into a way that instead of it being a bunch of nonprofits participating in one day, utilized it at kind of in the same way, but a bunch of different sports teams, a bunch of different academic departments, a bunch of different student organizations, and sort of compiled it in that way. And we're the organization running the Day of Giving for all of those different areas. So that was my initial thought process was, okay, we know that this can work in a community setting. Can we make it work in a university setting? So after that first All In that I was a part of happened, I went and I spoke to Tom and I was like, hey, I have some ideas, some stuff that might be able to make this work better. And ultimately, in July, they kind of were like, okay, we like these ideas. We're going to sort of let you run with it and see what happens. And I was, so I kind of drew up a proposal on how I wanted to see it moving forward. And there was obviously some buy-in that needed to come from our external sources, like Tom was mentioning, first and foremost, athletics. When we looked at all of the other schools in not even just Pennsylvania, but kind of across the board that participated in these things, there has to be support all around. But the reality is that athletics is where you get the buy-in first because they're so used to fundraising. Fundraising is sort of in their blood. They've been doing it since they were children. Their family supports them, so they know how to do it. So getting their buy-in first makes things a lot more successful. So we sort of started at the top, went to our athletic director, who is fantastic, Dr. Michael McFarland. He's awesome. Pitched him this idea, and he was like, hey, you know what? We need to do more fundraising anyway, so let's try to get the buy-in. So as it got closer, the team from the foundation went up and spoke to all of the coaches during a staff meeting. And there was definitely some reticence. There was uncertainty about this working and their buy-in and how much effort they were going to have to put into it. And would it be for little to no actual outcome? And I praise our athletic director for helping to motivate our coaches and really trying to get their buy-in from their perspective. And then what we did is we provided incentives for them to participate by basically saying, hey, we're going to have competitions. You guys are super competitive. We know you love this. So let's make this a game. Let's make it fun for you and for your teams. So we created first, second, third place. We didn't even do it by dollar amount. We've kind of stuck to this, that the donors matter more than the dollars first and foremost. We want participation. It's not necessarily about how much money we're making. It's just about getting the word out and getting the support. And so we made a $5 minimum donation and basically said, hey, whatever teams get the most donors, we're going to add even more money into your fund for second and third place. So it was basically free money just for participating if you can get top 3. And then on top of that, when we met with the coaches, we also were throwing out this idea of like, hey, we would love to have all of the students on our campus participate in an individual challenge. So basically last year we did the top 20 students on our whole campus who got the most donors would win really cool prizes. So basically like, all kinds of different things, gift cards and televisions and Spotify, things that they would like. And during this meeting, the one assistant coach said, hey, what would really motivate our students is parking. Parking is a prized commodity, and especially for our athletes, but not just for athletes, for really anyone, being able to park in faculty staff parking, being able to park basically anywhere but like handicap parking, because obviously they can't park there, but otherwise it's free game, will draw excitement. And so we added it to the list. And then when I started meeting with each of the teams, they were right, because they got really excited to participate. And we saw some teams more excited than others. Initially, coaches that got really invested and really creative and started doing their own internal competition within their own teams. And it just really grew from there. And we still weren't entirely sure how this was going to work, which is like the craziest part about building a brand new routine is like you're kind of just crossing your fingers and hoping the buzz that you're feeling is actually going to show some type of, blossom at the end. And we just didn't know. And then when it got close to All In last year, I would say like within the 2 weeks-ish before, we just started seeing all these videos dumping it through athletics. Like all the teams we'd recommended that they create videos and put them on their social media and share them out. And they just blew up. There were like within like the first 2 weeks, I would say there was like maybe 2 or 3 or 5 going out a day. And then the week before it was like 10 or 15 or 20 a day. And then the 24 hours leading up to it, our marketing team could barely keep up with sharing them. They were just going out like wildfire from athletics. Like the teams were just posting multiple back-to-back photos, talking about All In, talking about how to support, sharing the links. And we went from barely having 600 donors the prior year to having 2,813 donors by the end of that day of giving. So it was the adrenaline of that day was just so exciting for our whole team because we just did not know what to expect. We had a goal to just try to hit 1,000, and at the time we really thought that seemed impossible. So getting not only double but almost triple that number was just this huge adrenaline rush for all of us. We were just so excited, and really seeing the excitement from our teams was amazing as well. And then we obviously pushed that out into academics. Academics is still an area of struggle for us. I think the mentality of fundraising is different. And I think, there's still work to be done in getting collaboration within a larger group setting. It's a little more confined up in athletics, and it's easier to meet with and collaborate with them. We're still working on getting that same level of collaboration with academics. Our arts department has really been one of our strongest areas of collaboration on the academic side. And this year, we were able to also work with our business department, our College of Business, to really try to get their buy-in as well. And we're slowly just sort of whittling that together in the same way that we did with athletics, but in a bigger picture setting, to try to get the buy-in of a much larger base than within the athletics area. So that was a really long explanation for everything.
No, we appreciate it. And you talked specifically about the jump in donors, and I know that was followed by, I think, your highest dollar total yet from a giving day. Beyond the numbers themselves, what donor reactions or student participation or on-campus moments made you realize that the campaign was resonating and becoming part of Bloomberg's culture? I think you called it buzz, like you were feeling it, but describe some of that.
Yes. So, gosh, first it was the videos. I think like that was the first buzz. That was the first area where we were like, oh, they said they were going to do it, but they are actually doing it. They're actually sharing these out. And again, even in the arts department, we had a great group of people down there that were also creating videos. They did $5 Friday on, so our campaign is Thursday and Friday. They did a $5 Friday, just trying to get people excited and motivated to give from the arts area. It's difficult when it's a digital campaign. We actually did attempt in years past to do an on-campus gathering during All In. And I would be curious to know what it would look like now, because I do think more of our students know what All In is now than they did in previous years. But with a digital campaign, there is kind of a lack of connectivity, physically speaking. So like, students still have to go to class and teachers still have to be in those classroom settings. The day goes on campus. Everyone still has their things to do. So it's really hard to have an on-campus sort of presence. For All In, it is very much more of a digital campaign where we're just we expect the likes and the shares and the comments and, people just like recognizing that the day is happening. So overall, I think what we have really seen is just a growth in the social media presence, not only from our student perspectives, but from the parents of those students. We're sharing it over onto our main university page, and they're pushing it out, which is just getting more eyeballs on it. And I think that that's just really opening up sort of this digital world, which is great because, once you graduate, not everyone stays in the Bloomsburg area. Most people don't stay in the Bloomsburg area. So I think, it's nice to have that digital platform to reach out to everyone on, because it doesn't matter where you live. We had donors from Australia. We had donors from all over Europe, and just, it's fun to sort of see how far this is reaching and touching by being present on this digital platform to get the word out and be able to spread it despite where you live.
Yeah, all of this, just for whatever it's worth, is making my heart so happy, because having been in your shoes before, like that buy-in across campus is so critical for all the reasons that you just said. And I also know what a grind it can be to like do all of the work to get everyone on board with it. And you have to kind of place your bets and know, like, if we just stick with this, we will get there and we will get everyone bought in. So
Yeah.
kind of looking at that a little bit internally, like as the results started coming in, and once you got that buy-in and you're continuing to get buy-in year after year, what, like, how do you think that that's kind of changed the way that across campus, your internal partners have thought about this day of giving? Whether that's your leadership, athletics is obviously a very key audience here. Faculty, I know you had mentioned there is just more work to do just across the board. But kind of what do you think has changed as this has evolved, and what are the internal reactions from your campus partners?
I think one of the biggest things we've seen it is the leadership buy-in. Like leadership came to us and said, "We want you to do this all-in day of giving, or a day of giving. You have to do a day of giving because everyone else is doing one." And we're like, "Okay, we'll do one." And then that was kind of it early on in the early stages of what our giving day looked like, was go make this happen. And we were like, "Okay, we will." And then we tried our best, and we said, listen, we kind of need some top-down buy-in for this, for it to work. And then that was achieved by us meeting with our counterparts at some of the other schools, going locally, and even a little bit broader when we saw, okay, these are schools that are succeeding at this at huge levels on the national stage, I guess, if you look at it that way. And what we came back with every time from those conversations was, leadership is involved in this. You're getting buy-in from the president or the VP of advancement, or whatever it is. And that's where you start to see the growth, because sometimes it's just a matter of, if I don't need to do this, I'm not going to do it. But then once we had that come along that first year, and that was, not just leadership buying in, but leadership also pushing us to do more. Like Laura said, we had that 1,000 donor goal set, and we set and look at that for a couple weeks leading up to All In, and thought, oh, man, I don't know if we're going to be able to achieve this goal. And with leadership buy-in, though, came a lot of more conversations and ideas and openness to making this more fun and less rigid, as far as it's a 24-hour day of giving, and we can only count gifts that start at this time and that time, and not working the gamification of what a giving day means, and building up to it, and early bird giving opportunities, and all the kind of things that, you start to see some momentum pick up here, and then that gets more people to be like, oh, that worked for them, why don't we do it? And that's what really then we saw the growth come from. That was, once you got some success and people saw the actual results of that success, that's when buy-in truly starts.
Mhm.
That's when one team sees another team actually end the day with a couple thousand more dollars than they had before the day started, because they did a little extra work, or they set up a time when they were going to push to try to get the most donations between 3 and 4 o'clock, so they could win that prize money that was out there that was available, whether it was us offering that, or gifts that came through matching donors, or our donor matchers and challenge gifts. And then once that proof was in the pudding, if you will, people are like, oh, this
Yeah.
does work. We do need to, because we've told them countless times, like, yes, we can make plans and provide tools and pathways for you to be successful with this, but if you don't go out and raise this money yourself, you're not going to get a couple extra $1,000 just because the BU Foundation marketing team did a post about your
Yeah.
team, or send an email out to our entire alumni audience. It doesn't work that way. But once people started participating and other people saw that, it led to more. And then, when someone sees a member of their class doing a matching or challenge gift, whether they graduated 5 years ago or 15 years ago, they're like, wait, what's this? What are they doing that for? I want to get involved in that. And to me, one of the biggest things that we saw this year that was very exciting was, we went up and we talked to the group where we had a challenge gift, was in the military affairs office. And some of the students were gathered there, ninth or freshmen and sophomore students. And um, we asked them to gather over in the corner, so they would say thank you for going all in, just so we could capture that for our video to share out afterward. And the one girl had asked, what's this for? And then we told her, oh, it's for the all in day of giving. And she was like, oh, wow, we do one of those here. And she was
Oh
so
my God.
excited about knowing that was a thing that she could participate in, because she's seen it in other places. And that was a moment for me that was like, oh, wow, this is, people do care about this, and this is a way that people are used to being asked to fundraise. And so it's like, okay, I'm going to set this time aside and think about, how do I get involved in this now, and how do I do it next year? And but it did all start with leadership, university leadership, coming along and supporting us through the process, and reallocating resources, so that we were able to not just say we're doing this and we're spending more time on it, but we're getting more backup and making it happen.
One of the things that I think is super interesting, and you've both referenced throughout this conversation, is um, really the influence of other institutions on building your strategy. And I think that one of the examples was hearing about the importance of that top-down institutional buy-in. Continuing this theme of shared learnings, what advice do you have for any other teams who feel like maybe their Giving Day participation has plateaued, or that it's time for change? Um, what would you say to them?
First and foremost, I would say um, it's a really difficult time to fundraise. um, it's difficult right now to ask people to give their extra dollars. So find we had a meeting to end All In just recently, and we were discussing last year our baseball team, the money that they raised went toward a scoreboard, and so we keep referencing find your scoreboard. Find the thing that you can tell a story about. Find a thing that really excites people and motivates them and wants them to give and support. Because just by saying give money to the baseball team, that's an open door of for what? What are you doing with my money? But by saying we're raising money to be able to get a new scoreboard for our field, it helps the donor to visualize the thing that their money is going toward. And then when they come to a baseball game, they get to see that thing that they were a part of helping to raise. So find your scoreboard, find the things that you can tell stories about and will excite other people and will excite your donors to want to be a part of. And not everyone has an obvious scoreboard, quote unquote. Sometimes it is, especially in the academic areas, it's, we've had like our physics department come to us and say, we have this really expensive equipment and we need to do these upgrades on it. And that's a hard story to tell. Like, how do you get people excited about upgraded equipment in the physics department? So, it's going in and taking pictures of the students using that equipment and talking about doing an interview and getting quotes on, what they're learning with this equipment and how it's going to, really grow their professional future. And, I think you have to get creative and you have to find ways to excite your donor. Another thing that we do that I would really recommend is we do kind of a give what matters to you most. And it does require a little bit of extra work on our part, but we don't just say you can give to athletics or give to the College of Business or give to the College of Arts and Humanities. It's you can give to accounting or field hockey or a club sport that you participated in. We really try to just broaden and open up and give the donor the opportunity to give to the thing that was maybe the thing that got them through when they were in college, or that they know that their child was excited about when they were in college or still are. And I think that really helps to give the donor an opportunity to give to the thing that they really care about instead of giving to this broad area that they're not really sure where that money goes or what it's going to be used for.
Another thing I would recommend is if you're in a situation where you're like, well, we're just not having success, we're not growing this, we're plateaued, is to think bigger. It was scary to us because they're like, here's 1,000 donor goal, and we're like, you're crazy. We've never been able to crack 700, and now you're asking us to turn this into 1,000, even though we saw a decline the year before from the amount of donors we had. And that was where it was like, go see who's doing great at this, and don't be afraid to reach out to them, because in our world, one of the benefits we have is that we all have our own audiences and we're not really competing with each other. Like if I call Ball State or Penn State and say, "Hey, could we have a meeting where you tell us about if they're, how you're doing so great at your day of giving?" If they're gracious enough to give some of their time and are open to sharing that, they're not worried about us stealing Ball State donors and them not succeeding as much because they came and decided to give to Bloomsburg instead because we stole one of their ideas, quote unquote stole, right? But and it's yeah, you can easily look at that and say, oh yeah, but they're a huge university and we're a small university and they have a huge staff that's able to pull all this off and we only have 4 people here that are doing this whole job. Right, but you can scale those ideas down, right? That's the big thing is like, okay, this is what they do. How could we make something like that work for us? And it really opens your mind to, oh man, I never thought about that. Like, yeah, but one thing at Ball State is everybody puts their name on a duck and puts it in the pond or the fountain on their campus or whatever, and we're like, well, we don't really have that yet. But that's something that you can also say like our goal is to get there. So how do we do little steps to take us to that place where I'm going to do something that matters to me during this day that makes me want to participate in it, even if I don't necessarily have a stake in I want my money to go to field hockey or I want my money to go to um, the philosophy department. I want to be a part of All In because this is how I do it, by doing this thing that I get involved in on that matters to me. And don't forget about your students, because we automatically kind of assume that students can't afford to give, they're not going to give, they don't have any extra income or any extra disposable funds to put to this, but they they will get involved if you connect with them in a way that matters. So you have to figure that out and try your best to engage them, and that's the best way to have them engaged going forward and build your pipeline of donors and your donor base. Because if they start giving during All In while they're here, when they see All In 5 years from now, they'll be like, oh yeah. And then even if they only have $20 that they can afford to spare, they'll be much more inclined to make that gift because it brings back the memories of when they participated in All In while they were here on campus.
Student philanthropy is a really big topic that we've been hearing throughout a lot of these interviews of just how do you kind of build that culture. And I think a day of giving, to your point, is a really great way to do that, all in all. Um, but I guess in the spirit of idea sharing and learning from each other, thank you so much for sharing all of the things that you have learned with our audience. And I know that this is going to be something that everyone will be able to take nuggets of what you've said and hopefully apply to their own strategies. And just thank you for kind of helping perpetuate that culture of idea sharing across organizations. Because I think exactly what you said, we're all here to learn from each other and improve our own orgs, and we're not here to compete with each other. So thank you for your time and graciousness of taking the last, half hour, 45 minutes to chat with us. And congratulations on being an innovator as well. We're really excited to be able to highlight you. And this will not be the last that you hear from us on partnerships and everything, because this is really important work that you're doing. And, just looking at these results, it's really incredible. So congratulations on that as well, most importantly.